Hello, and welcome to Conference Showcase. I'm your host, Gary Leland, and I'm bringing you another episode from a conference I attended from where else. Now, if you found my show on Facebook, YouTube, or any other video sharing site, please check out my website. And my website's at conferenceshowcase.com. Now, it's a place to find all the videos I record from all the conferences I attend. And they're normally tech conferences, of course. Now, if you enjoy this episode, please tell your friends about this show. Now, in this episode, I'm bringing you a session from Podcamp Dallas. Now, Podcamp Dallas was held in October of 2012. If you're not familiar with Podcamp Dallas, you really need to check out their website. Well, it's at podcampdallas.com, of course. Okay. Now, in this episode, I'm bringing you a session with Kondas titled Podcasting Basics. Let's watch it now.
My name is Kondas. I'm one of the hosts from Podcamp Dallas. I'm here to give us a talk on the basics of podcasting. Now, first thing I want to ask, because I'm a faculty member up at University of Texas at Dallas, and I teach video up there and a few other media classes. The first thing I want to know is, does everybody know here what a podcast is? And I'm being honest here, because I got students who I'll say, do you know what this is? And they're just like, who here listens to podcasts? Who's at least listened to a podcast once? Okay, so good. That's about majority of the people in the room. So, trying to show here how simple podcasts can actually be, and especially, and then also, if we're going from the basics of where, starting off to where, if you get more serious about it, what tools you have at your disposal, what sites and stuff like that. Currently, I do two different podcasts. I actually do one with Mark. One is a video podcast called the Tech Tart Show. We do normally do it every Tuesday night. And we do it through Liquid Lobster Studios, which is in Addison. It's sort of like a techie kind of ripping on, the stupid people in tech and in the geek world. Like one of the stories I know Mark had brought up one time was somebody robbing a 7-Eleven store wearing a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles mask. And so it's just finding, stupid stories like that. And we have our other host, Sarah, who does sort of like the kind of geeky female stories. And you have my corner where I came in called Kyle's Corner, where I kind of go on really geeky news, video game, film, comic book kind of news. And then I have another one called MC Square, which is all audio-based. It was just a few friends, we decided we wanted to get together, and the original theme of it was because my knowledge on music is so vapid. It's like if you have a stream, like a spectrum of the music chain, you have the intro here, people who are kind of learning, the center where people are kind of know everything, they have a good medium knowledge, and then you have the experts. I am plastered all over the chart. It's just, there's not one space. I'm kind of, I'll know a song from the Monkees, but then I can't even think of the title of a Depeche Mode song. So it's kind of over. So the reason and we also do a lot of geeky stuff. We do a couple skits. We kind of, just riff on each other, and it's about learning music. We have geek culture talk there. And the reason that these have been really good shows is because I'm a nerd. I have a lot of love for geek culture, and that's one of the big things you want to do, especially when doing a podcast. It's it's when you choose to do a show of any sort, video or audio, you may have to make sure that it's something that you're passionate about, something you're interested in. Don't just think, hey, I want to do a podcast about marketing. If you have no interest in marketing, if it's not even something you're an expert in, you're not going to go that far with it. So Gary right here in the front row, he does a podcast about softball. Yeah, softball, and it's something he knows. It's his business, so it's something he can talk about. He can get every week. He can do a new show, or he might do a video 3 times a week. That's the other difference too. Is how many times a week are you going to do a show? It's also the commitment to it. So it's one, it has to be something you're interested in, something you want to talk about. 2, the commitment value. It's something if you're going to do a show, you have to make sure you set a schedule. Don't say I'm going to do a show and then you might do one every 3 months, because you're not going to have an audience base for it. So if you're going to say I'm going to do a show, maybe a video podcast, and I'm going to release a new episode every Tuesday and Thursday, consistency is very important. If you say you're going to do it on these dates, that's the date you need to make sure you put them out. Now, if you have if something happens, a medical issue, you can always say, hey, make sure you always put something out there to let people know there's not going to be something happening. Another big component with podcasting is social media. It's that's the whole thing. It's social media is made to be social. Don't just say hi. Don't use it to troll people. Don't use it just to randomly to say stupid things. You want to actually interact with your audience. It's another big component of how you actually market and get your show out there. So I'm going to go and start off with just basic audio. If you guys don't have any expertise, you're really starting off, something you just want to test the waters with, one site that you can go to is called talkshoe.com. What this site is basically, it allows you to actually use your telephones to actually call people. So you can actually have multiple people call in and actually and you can record the audio and use that as your podcast. Now, like I said, this is a very, like I say this is a decent site for like a starting point. Like if you're not, like I said, you might want to try your hands at a podcast. You might, think, hey, I have this great idea. You get to talk, you get your friends to talk, and this stuff happens. Sometimes, it just might fall apart. You get together, you do 2 or 3 shows, and then somebody can't do it, and then sometimes the shows just fall to the waste. But this is one where you can have multiple phone calls come in, get them together, have the audio podcast recorded. The only bad thing about, one of the bad things about it is the audio quality kind of sucks. You're talking over the phone, so it's not like it's professional audio based that you're hearing. So you're gonna hear it almost sounds like you're listening to 4 people on the phone all together. So, and then sometimes if somebody's phone dies, something goes out, then you lose somebody. That's the whole thing, especially if, another good thing about this is if you're in multiple different locations. So if you're in Dallas and then you're in Houston, you have somebody in New York, this is one way you can actually congregate everybody together. But you also have the ability of Skype, which you can use too. So you actually record, have people call in and record yourself. If you guys want to go to the next level, like say you want to start doing maybe you have a show you want to interview people about I don't know, in the marketing world, or maybe comedy or movies. There are devices out there like audio recorders. One is the Tascam recorder. There are also Zoom recorders out there. You can pick these up at Micro Center, Guitar Center, or even online. Sometimes you can find better deals online. The good thing about these is you can use this on the go. You can take it, slip it in your bag, and use it to record. But the one good thing about it is it also comes with XLR cables. Now what the XLR cables are is these are cables you use to basically use mics. So they're kind of like this. They have 2 different prongs, and you can have one go into, like I said, the Tascams or the Zoom recorders have 2 ports. You can actually put 2 different mics in there. And you can buy different mics like Sennheiser, Shure mics, sort of like these. They range, I think Shure mics you can get for 50, I think Sennheisers go up to more like 100, and Mark was telling me recently that they have special deals online where you can get 2 really good Sennheiser mics maybe for 170. Like I said, sometimes the stores don't do deals. If you look online, there are multiple different good deals you can find. And this is like I said, it depends on serious. If you're really serious about trying to do a show, trying to really promote whatever you're trying to do, then I would almost say and you need to travel, I would recommend this, but this is the next step up. And there are other ways you can also you can find mixing boards when you want to get the multiple person account when we do MC Square. My friend Kern used to work for the radio station. He used to work for Cumulus Radio, so he has his own soundboard, he has his own mics, he has his own stuff. So we set up in his living room, and we've got my laptop, his laptop connected to it, and so you can buy a mixing board, a decent one, for about maybe $250, $300. And then you can start plugging people in. You can have more people in that location recording, and that's when the audio quality really kind of gets better. There's certain software out there you can use to record. One is Audacity. Audacity is a free audio recording program that's both PC and Mac. It's cross-platform. There are other ones like on Mac. You have GarageBand you can use to record to. You can use. They used to have one called Soundtrack Pro, which used to come with the Final Cut Pro suite, but since Apple doesn't support that anymore, it's no longer around. Unless you get an older version. On Adobe, I think you can use Sound Booth. I think you can use it to record into. So you need Adobe Suite, and this is if you start getting more, better and better, you get more serious, and you start gaining an audience. And sometimes some people anybody who's ever heard of Kevin Smith, he's a total geek, has done all these movies. Now he makes his living off of podcasting. And there's a lot of podcasts where people come through town. One of my favorite podcasts is the Nerdist podcast with comedian Chris Hardwick, and I just saw him recently in July. He does a traveling podcast where they get on stage, have a guest, and they record the show, and it goes up as part of their line. He's got over almost 300 episodes now, because he started off doing it once a week, then they said, hey, let's maybe go to 2 weeks, and now they release 3 episodes a week. So it's because they do this whole backlog of recording episodes a prior month, so they have it to. So if they can't, they'll have one to put up if they don't have one recorded, right away. But they become shows now. People do live podcasts, so it's becoming the whole when podcasting first started, people thought, oh, it's people are trying to make their own little internet shows for the iPod, when the iPod first came back out 2003, 2004, and now it's become an actual market. So the internet has become a new media base for us to actually use out there. 2 other sites you can actually use for podcasting when you get more serious is there's one called Podbean. Podbean is another one where, what's good about Podbean and also the more popular one, Libsyn, is these are sites where you basically, they start off, you pay a small minimum fee, like maybe $5, $10, $15 a month, and for that amount of money, they give you space. So let's say you charge $10 a month for maybe 500 megs of space. What that basically means is when you record an audio podcast, you have 500 megs of space per month to use to upload your show. Usually, depending on how long you do and that's another big thing, is knowing how long you're going to do your show for. Typical, I would say normal podcast usually runs about maybe an hour. An hour when you record the audio, will be about, and that's the big thing too, is when you record, whatever it is, like say you have a Tascam, or say you're recording 20 softwares, your audio file is going to be called what we call a WAV file. And then usually an hour WAV file will come out to about maybe 400 or 500 megs. What you need to do is to compress that, and maybe it's 500 megs, and then you just use your whole quota right there. So you compress it into an MP3, and that usually goes down to about maybe 60, 70 megs. And so then you have, let's say you're doing 4 shows a month, 70 megs per week. You still got a good quota if you want to add an additional bonus. One of the cool things about Libsyn and Podbean is every month your quota basically starts over again. So like at the end of the month, like say you used like 495 megs, it basically refreshes and you have another full 100, 500 you can use again.
What about the shows that you had from that previous month? Do they archive them?
Yes, there is an option on both. That's what I was going to go with. It's both these have an option where you can archive them, and so basically you go through and you have a backlog list, so that way, like when you put them to iTunes. One of the bad things is the show that I do, MC Squared. It's on a service called Podomatic, and like again, they have where you pay a monthly fee and you get a certain quota, but they don't archive for you. They say you have to kind of go through like Libsyn or Podbean to find some place like that. So that's where I'm in the works talking to my friends trying to get it switched over to Libsyn, because that'll allow us. I mean, we can only we have like 2.5 gigs of memory, and we can only keep like maybe 15 to 20 shows up, and then we have to take one down. So if you move to Libsyn or Podbean, you always have archive to go back to a later date.
And that's just storage on those two, right?
Yes.
It's not a merchandising channel for your podcast, right? So iTunes, for example, is going to point to that file.
Yeah, you direct your Libsyn account to iTunes. Another one you can use is Stitcher Radio. I was going to try to bring up the site, but I think the site's down. Stitcher Radio, yeah. It's another big one, competing one with iTunes. There'll be two of the ways to kind of really get your iPods out there.
And then Podcast Alley or something like that.
Yeah, that's another one.
I was just going to say that Libsyn doesn't refresh it every 30 days. It lasts for 30 days. So like on the 30th day, the show that was 30 days ago drops off, and you get that much more bandwidth back. But it's not like when one starts, you got fresh 500. You can have 500 at all times.
Okay.
So if you use 500 the first
well, no,
week,
then you
don't
archive
have
it
it for another month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so like I say, when you archive it, it gives you that space back. But then again, the more you pay, like I think they have it where you pay like $20 now, you can get like I think 2 gigs of space, or a gig and a half, 2 gigs, and so you use that and you can always archive it. But that's the good thing is like with MC Squared, like we have like episodes 69 to 57 up, and that's all we can do. So like if you can archive it, then you can just redirect, and that's how like iTunes, Stitcher will go back, and you can go back to episode 1 and start fresh. When you can watch, listen to all 300 episodes of Nerdist.
Will they do something special that just storing it on a server somewhere doesn't do? Just like storing a file on a server. Do these guys do something special?
I don't think so.
Sure. There's actually a. Is it okay to mention other services?
No. Yeah, go. I'm not networked. I'm just saying these are the biggest ones that are known out there.
Okay, sure. My name is Jason, by the way. Neil's not here at the moment. We've been doing the I Live in Dallas.com podcast. So basically, there's a service we've been using. It's called Blurberry, BLURBRRY, I think. It's about $15 a month. For that particular plan, it renews every 30 days, I think it is. And it's like $15. Plus you get it's not as in-depth as Google Analytics is going to be, but it also gives you a form of analytics with it as well. And they actually have a WordPress plugin for it as well, so you can integrate it with WordPress if you're using that. In my experience so far, the plugin attaching those files, whatever else, works about 80% of the time. Every now and then we have a glitch with it and we have to monkey with it, but most of the time it's just plug and play is what my experience has been so far.
Well, one thing I can say is one of the offerings that Libsyn has is if you I think you go up to like the $25 mark, the actual create your own app for the iPhone or the Android, which you can actually use to push your shows. Does the one you just mentioned, do they have that offering too, or?
I think they do. It's one of the I don't know what it costs per month, but it's one of the graduated.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of the biggest features. Like when you go from on Libsyn or Podbean, when you go from like 20 to 25, the amount of things you can do for your show kind of enlarges. So
they changed that too on Libsyn, where they used to give you your own app because iTunes wanted everybody's app to be by the person who created it as far as buying the $100 license. Mm-hmm. So now they like throw you in their app.
Yeah,
so it's not your own personalized app anymore.
Okay.
You split the revenue for them.
Right.
Okay. And like I said, this is mostly like where I mean, Libsyn. I know Mark even you used for Pigskin Radio. You used Libsyn for that as a storage. The big difference, what I'm going to jump in over here now to is, there's the difference between video and audio podcasting. When you do video, there's a lot more that goes into it, because with audio, it's like you put your recorder down, you have mics, you record, and then you pull the file. Unless you want to go back and add some stuff in there, really, unless you have to edit for some reason, you can just take the file and that's it. Then you can add your own intro on it. It's all audio. You can press it, put it online. There you go. When you're doing video, as I teach video, that's where the production comes in a lot heavier. Now, when we do tech tards, we have access to a TriCaster, which is basically a $30,000 piece of software. It's a computer that has a software where you can mount like up to 8 different cameras and do HD video on it. And so it's like watching a sports thing when you have multiple cameras, you're switching back and forth. It's a switcher basically. Sort of like what Mark has. He has a sort of smaller version called Vid Blaster, which he got for a lot cheaper, and we have multiple cameras who are running this.
Actually, TriCaster came out with a new edition that's like $5,000. I saw it at Cali Studio yesterday.
Okay. Was it HD or?
It is HD.
Oh, wow, okay.
The 40?
Yeah.
Yep.
They
Okay.
did an unboxing this week.
Okay, so there. We've taken the month off, so I haven't been up
think
there.
that only has four cameras.
Okay.
It's just a cheaper version.
Okay.
And it doesn't support SDI.
No, it does not.
Ooh, okay. That's the thing. It's like the TriCaster. It's a lot more. But like, so if you guys have a budget, the Vid Blaster is it open source? No, open source. But it's basically I think $1,000 for the software, and you can like when Mark did some of the videos, he takes like when the USB like webcams. Now he's got a couple of the different Vixia cameras. Which that's another thing, like too, especially when you want to dig into a video, it's like what's the proper like kind of camera you want to buy. And when I started doing video, I remember spending $1,000 on a one-chip SD tape camera. This is back in 2003. Now you can get the equivalent of that for about maybe $300. And the lines that I like to use are what they call the Canon Vixia line. So it's Canon. Sony still has good camcorders, which are good. Panasonic I kind of veer away from, but Canon and Sony are the two I would say. But like with Canon, their whole line of Vixias go anywhere from about maybe $300 up to like $1,200. It just depends. Like some cameras have built-in hard drives, like the 32 gigs, and some will have the hard drive and built-in SD card slots. Anything up to you can get to 32. Like they'll have 2, so you can have a lot of room. You're just shooting with one camera. The whole thing with the TriCaster is we're running 3 different cameras, so I'm editing back and forth between Mark. We have a shot with both Mark and Sarah. I have a shot with me. Sometimes we have audience. We'll have a shot, of the audience, so we can kind of show what's going on. And then you can import your own audio clips. You can import your own video clips. So it's like we're doing our own little tech news show. If you're thinking about maybe doing like a web series, and that's where there's always been like an argument of what is a podcast. Is a video a podcast? Now video podcast has gotten so big. It's called web television. There are different web series out there. Every year at CES, at the big, huge, at the huge tech fair at in Las Vegas, they have what the Webbies, which is like the internet. There's an organization out there called the IWTV, the International Association of Web Television, where basically people become members and they judge on the different series that you can, which like best comedy, best drama. So like there's a huge market for people doing web series, but there's also the thing where, like what kind of web series do you do? If you're editing a web series down, the attention span, I think you guys know this, the attention span of somebody online watching something, unless you have an vested interest in something, the attention span of somebody's going to be like 30 seconds. If you haven't grabbed somebody's in a video, you haven't grabbed their attention in 30 seconds, you're changing the channel, and that's the whole thing. And unless you I know Chris Hardwick's doing he has his own Nerdist channel on YouTube where they have multiple different programming they have, and so unless I'm invested to watch, he has a show what he calls All-Star Bowling, where he has Team Nerdist versus another team. So they've done a show where they had Team Doctor Who, where they had the current Doctor Who and the whole cast against them, and they basically they do a bowling tournament and they raise money for a certain charity. So and I like watching it because it's humorous, stuff like that. But it's trying to find that niche market. So like I said, audio, you go through and it's just you pull the file. When you're shooting, you got to figure, am I going to do a one camera shoot? Is this a web blog? Is this going to be a multiple camera shoot? We're doing a drama or a comedy series. And there's also the time you have pre-production when you're playing out. You're talking about I'm going to what do you call it? Just you script it out, storyboard it out. Then you have multiple cameras, and then you might shoot 48 hours worth of footage, and then you're going to edit everything down into like a 3-minute web series online. So that's where the production value is going to get a lot higher. I mean, that's, you know, it really just depends. And again, when it comes to the video podcasting, there really is a commitment value where you gotta, you know, it really just take a lot more. I used to try to do a web series called, I started with my friend Adam, we called Spirits. It was basically a sit down kind of happy hour discussion, which is with random artists and like tech people. And, you know, I think we got 5 episodes in, and we would randomly do an episode like every couple months. And then we tried to go to audio. And we changed the whole format from Spirits to called Drinking with the Arts. And I started, you know, I recorded one episode at South by Southwest, and, you know, and then that just fell to the side after about 5 episodes, and now I'm kind of trying to refresh the idea to something brand new. So one of the things that's helped me keep going with Tech Tards and MC Squared is I've got like a support group there. I've got people I'm working with. So, you know, sometimes that's a bigger factor too. Is like, you know, having the self-commitment to do it yourself. You know, that can sometimes be hard because you might have so much going on. Sometimes if you're working with people, they can be the factor that keeps you going. You know, trying to like make sure you stay on track. You know, like if you're known for going all over the place, they can wrangle you back in and say, no, we can't do this, we can't do this, we got to do this by this time.
So, like, what do you use to organize each of your episodes? Like, do you have like a call sheet or?
When it comes to Tech Tards, we each gather our own stories. So like I said, Mark finds his, you know, tech nerdy, you know, the stupid tech stories out there. Sarah will wrangle her, you know, female nerd stories, and I find what the, you know, the latest current geek stories are. So I have my sources, the pages I go to look for stuff. And when we come in, we actually create a run sheet, so that way we, like, if I'm on my laptop when I'm running the TriCaster, or Mark has his own, you know, Nexus pad, or Sarah has her iPad, we can kind of look at what the different stories are, so we know what we're going to be talking about. When it comes to the audio show, my friend Kern kind of like, he'll find, like, we kind of go through different music, you know, just different songs that come out each week, and we kind of listen to them, rate them. He'll get that all down. Sometimes we might have a homework assignment. Like when we record a show tomorrow, we have what are our top 5 TV crushes from current and past. So it's like, you know, there's a new show on TV called, or they're on their second season, but it's called Two Broke Girls. And, you know, one of my crushes is Kat Denning on the show. So it's like that. Who like, you know, it could have been somebody from the 80s, somebody from the 90s. Who were your past? So we'll have homework, so then we'll go through and read each other's list and kind of rate them for each other. So it's just, you know, it depends. I know some people, when they start off on a show, like when we started MC Squared, we really didn't know what the format was going to be. We just kind of, we got on there. He had music he wanted to listen to, and then this is where I guess still get ripped on this, but we have a Kyle's Corner on there too, where basically they didn't know, and, you know, they quiz me on different music. So, you know, and that's, you know, it's to kind of educate me. It's kind of changed where Kyle's Corner maybe have it every other like 4 weeks or something. We started doing tech and nerd news with video game stuff. So it, like, as you start a show, whether it's video or audio, you know, you got to realize, you know, you go watching these shows, don't think because. I'll tell you right now, when we started doing Tech Tards, we were in Mark's old office, and the camera was crunched on him and Sarah, crunched together, and I was on a mic on the other side of this wall. And so it's changed, where it's like the quality of a show is gonna, if you're committed to it, if you're really serious about this, the quality is gonna go up, and just, you know, from there. If you're serious, go back and find a podcast, whether it's video or audio, and listen to the audio quality. Watch the video quality, you know, the work that they put into it. Like if you're looking to kind of get into a video podcast, again, the Vixies, like, they're pretty affordable. Like, you don't have to go out and spend $3,000 or $4,000 on a camera. You can go for a basis of like maybe $400 or $500 and actually shoot. These cameras are really good. They shoot in a quality what's called AVCHD. And, you know, and the one thing to know is if you buy these cameras, and you have to also know your editing software. The one I would have always recommended was called Final Cut Pro. Apple has now switched over to Final Cut Pro X, which I still call a bastardization of the program. It's basically iMovie Pro, and they've changed everything. I've been using Final Cut Pro 7 for the last 10 years, and now I have to learn everything again. So there's also Adobe Premiere, which I would also recommend. There's also Sony Vegas out there, which is which I know Mark edits with. And you know, and sometimes you can find these softwares for pretty, you know, decent price. And if you want to learn Final Cut X, I know people out there. There's a lot of people that do love it. It's $300 on the Apple App Store, so you can go buy it there. If you take if you're starting fresh, maybe using Final Cut X might be good for you. But you know, you go through, and you can shoot like these video podcasts to where, like, you know, sorry, I'm just after I talk a lot, I kind of get scattered. So you start going through the production of the, you know, you get the camera, you go through. You also have to worry about mic. One of the biggest components when you're doing, again, when it comes to audio, even the audio podcast, is audio is one of the main key factors that's either going to make or break your video. You can have the most pristine visual online, but if there's no audio, then I can guarantee you nobody can hear what's going on. They're going to leave. Like I said, it's the attention span. You got to have something to draw them in that first 30 seconds, or they're not going to stay and watch. Sometimes, your video quality might not be the best, but as long as you can, it might be maybe it's dark, maybe it's a little like washed out, but as long as you can kind of see what's going on, hear what's going on, if it's funny, it's entertaining, people are going to stay and they're going to realize you're first starting off. Sometimes that first one, you're not totally sure, but you're kind of finding out what the format of that show is going to be, and as you go, you'll start to figure it out. That's how a lot of web series have happened. I remember when there's a web series out there called The Guild. Felicia Day is an actress who's kind of been on with Josh Whedon on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And she decided, hey, I'm a huge gamer, I want to start this show. So they started what they called The Guild, which is basically about 5 or 6 different people who were playing World of Warcraft. And when they first started off, they shot the whole thing on one day, and then they edited it down and made like 8 different episodes of the series and released like 1 per week. So, and now they've gone through 5 different seasons, and if you watch the very first episode compared to like the last episode of season 5, the basis of quality has just gone up. So, don't ever feel like just because I'm doing one show, it's going to suck. You don't get many, you only put a video out there and you only get maybe like 20 views. Don't worry. It's like you got to keep doing this. A lot of people think I'm going to be all famous with my show, and they don't ever get like, they don't ever break like the 100 mark or 200 mark until like maybe 50 episodes in. So, it's like, this is a commitment thing. If it's something you're passionate about doing, just make sure that, it's a love for the art. You got to keep pushing it out there.
One of the things with her, she and Will Wheaton have started up their own channel.
Yeah, Geek and Sundry. Yeah, that's one of the big things. And like I said, the one source where a lot of like video podcasts happen is what I'm sure everybody knows, YouTube. YouTube about maybe 5 months ago, we're looking for people to start marketing their own channel. So they came to Chris Hardwick, and he thought he got they have all this Stars programming. She did the whole Geek and Sundry, so they have like all these geek, female-related shows and other stuff. She has the Guild on there, and all these. She has her own like kind of video blog, web show on there. And there's a lot of people who take these shows and have basically made themselves famous by becoming web stars using YouTube. I can't remember if there are people out there who do like their own. I can't remember think of his name, but he does a show called Cute, Funny, Fail, and he does like these different web videos, and he has like this personality. If anybody's watched video blogs where they have what they call the real fast jump cuts, they don't do like one quick continuous shot. They edit it to where it's like keep getting attention. Another thing, like also you want to kind of go through like, maybe if you were able to get the funds for like a video podcast, you want to do multiple cameras, especially while we do the TriCaster. If you leave the camera on one shot, it's going to get monotonous after a while, so you want to keep it, change it up. You want to keep going back and forth through different people.
We're doing one, a podcast called Fellowship of the Geeks.
Oh, wow.
And we use Google Hangouts, and then it automatically goes to YouTube.
Okay.
But the great thing about Google Hangouts, granted, I think you have to pay to have more, but you can have up to 10 people on their webcams at one time. And when it picks up that somebody's speaking, it'll cut to their view. The only problem is it can be very sensitive. And so while somebody's talking, I might be looking up something on the computer to hear my key clicks.
Does it interrupt it? Yeah.
And so they see me looking off doing this thing over here, or if somebody moves their chair, it'll swap back. And I don't know if they can adjust sensitivity on that or not. But
what kind of latency does it have?
From what we're looking at to the YouTube, it's probably, I want to measure probably about 5 seconds, 5, 6, 7 seconds.
Now I meant the latency with it picking up the.
Oh, that, it's usually pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm impressed with it.
Well, and that's one thing I find out sort of like with talk show. It's like when you're having the phone calls, like because you're using your phones, like if you're trying to call in with your iPhone and it goes out, then you just lost one of your talking, and then you have to go through the whole process of getting them connected up back again. So.
Yes, I've dropped out a couple of times. It's usually my own fault. So.
So but YouTube is one, like I said, YouTube is like, if you want to do a podcast, this is one of the biggest ways to market yourself, because YouTube, I think it still is probably the second most used web browser, just because everybody's on there. Now what's kind of hard about this is because you realize, there are really good gems on YouTube, but then again you have all these different videos of like people's cat, or people face planting off a bike into the pavement. It's like, it's how do you go through and actually like market your show so people are going to find it. One of the biggest things is what they call tags. So when you're uploading a video, you want, like say, like I'm doing a show about, just talking about the weather. So like, I just do that out as a generic thing, but like, I want people to be able to find my, show. So outside of just normal sources like social media, like say Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, stuff like that. What you do is you put tags in. So like say I'm in Dallas, I want to put my name, Kyle Kondas, I'm in Dallas, Texas. Maybe I always shoot from Plano, so I try to put Plano, Texas. The weather, I want to put tornado, rain. You put all these different tags, so when somebody searches, it narrows the search engine down to like only specific, thing. If I just put weather, I can guarantee you like it's going to come up to like 30,000 paid, different links of video pages of the videos. If I narrow it down to all those links, it'll probably narrow it down to 5 pages, so it'll be a lot easier to find. And then maybe I might even, if you put the right amount of tags in, your video might pop button is the first link. So that's going to be one of your biggest things. You always want to, and you'll see when you're uploading a video to one of these sites, they'll put tags, and that's how it enables your video to be found a lot quicker in these searches. If you're more serious about wanting to really, monetize your web service or web series, another one is called Blip.tv. Blip started off about, I want to say, a year and a half after YouTube started. And when they first started, I don't think they really knew what they were trying to do, but now they are marketed to creating web series. It's not, you don't upload video. Like, you're taking a snapshot of somebody farting or you get hit with a baseball bat. It's like, this is purely for making your own web series. And they have a whole market. This is what we have Tech Tarts under. And you can actually do deals with them to where you can actually, make money off these, through ads or stuff. This is where you can actually monetize if you wanted to try eventually. If you have a huge enough audience, and that's another thing with YouTube. When they did with Felicia Day with Nerdist, they realized that hey, certain people are drawing a certain amount. We're drawing like $4,000 views a day, or when these series go up. Sometime you have the viral videos that get maybe like 20,000 or a million views a day. That's why they market with them, so people can actually make deals to actually make actual funds off of this. But again, these are people who've been doing series for over 5 years now. So it's like, like I said, don't think I can make a web series. I'm not saying it can't happen. You might be the lucky one, but when you do a series and you ever think, don't ever do a web series in the hopes of being famous. Do it in the love for passion, something you want to share with people. If you love entertaining people, let that be it. But then again, as you do it longer and you get more audience base, you might be able to actually add, you might get these lucky breaks and be able to, kind of help push your service out there. The one last one I would recommend is there's also another site called Vimeo. Vimeo is a really good site. YouTube has it where you can upload HD video. You can 1080, 720. The only thing is, unless you have like one of the huge producer accounts, they limit what you can do. I think now you can do up to originally remember when YouTube first started, you couldn't upload any more than 10 minutes. And it had to be an MP4 format. Now they've changed since then. They went up to 1 gig. Now they're up to 2 gigs, and you can do I think up to 20 minutes. And if you're able to get one of the producer accounts, you can do longer videos. But it's that whole thing now. Like you can do up to 20 gigs. Vimeo has it to where they have a free account, but they only give you 500 megs a week. So you have to if you want to actually add more, you have to. They pay $60 a year per account, and they give you a 5 gig upload limit per month. It refreshes every year thing. The one bad thing about this is Vimeo is more of like a portfolio page. You can put films up there, documentaries, just testing, shooting, DSLR shooting has become a real big thing right now. So people are shooting with DSLR cameras to shoot films. Even web series are on here. But the one thing you can't do is you cannot make any monetization on. You cannot monetize your series on this thing. You cannot make any money. This is purely for showing your work. It's purely resume. It's great if you make a piece out there and you want people to see it. You put it here. And that's another thing too. If you do a web series, if you do a short film, put it on multiple platforms. Don't just limit yourself to one, because the thing is, not everybody's on Vimeo, not everybody's on Blip, not everybody's on YouTube.
Everyone is on YouTube.
Yeah. You would be surprised. No, I've got students when I do my video class who've never even created a YouTube account, so not everybody's on YouTube.
They're using YouTube.
They're watching YouTube, but I'm saying, but if not everybody uses, I know people they're not using YouTube to search this stuff up, so they might think, hey, I'm looking for something really cool to see on Vimeo. But the more platforms you have your thing on, with audio podcasts, putting it through Stitcher, putting it through Libsyn, putting it through Stitcher, putting it through iTunes. The more different platforms you have, the more people are going to be able to find your thing, and the larger audience you're going to have to actually people to find your product. Another service you can also do, which I think we're live streaming right now on, is Ustream. Ustream, there's also another one out there called Justin TV. Basically what these are live service where you can actually stream live online. You could, if you're at home and you want to interview somebody, you can hook your own camera up and then connect to it. Ustream and Justin, the great things about them are they're totally free. Once you record a service, you can actually use, Ustream, you can actually, once you save the thing, you can actually upload the videos you record to iTunes. So there is a way you can network through these sites. One of the cool things about these is Ustream and Justin have their own mobile apps on their phone for both Android and Apple, sorry. And I'm going to go ahead and try to show you this. I'm actually going to stream real quick everybody here. Come on.
Well, that's pretty exciting, huh?
Hang on a second.
I couldn't resist.
Is that an ad?
I think
Making
so.
money on sharing this file?
There.
So it's
All right.
One bad thing about these sites.
It's not entirely free.
No, I know exactly. You got to have the ad. You know, they have to make money somehow. So you even notice like YouTube now, when you watch any of the videos, you'll have an ad pop up right before it. Sometimes you can get through it. Actually, no.
Well, those are all people who have chosen.
I'm,
I know.
I'm thirsty.
Boy.
I want to say that. Give it a second.
And you'll notice the ads always stream better than the stream.
Here we go.
Hey.
That's one thing I
Are
found
we
out
on
that
TV?
site exposed
Yeah.
the diversity of the network in the building.
So as you can see, I'm streaming live from my phone. The way I mention this is because if you're on the go, like say you do like some kind of tech news story and you don't have a camera and you go to some event where something big's happening, break out your iPhone, break out your Android. What a lot of people don't realize is we have really good cameras on our phones now, especially with the iPhone 5, the Galaxy 3S. They have these unbelievable cameras that we can shoot.
Lock up.
No,
So is that just the Ustream app?
Yes, and both the like the services, the Ustream app and Justin app are totally free. Also, one thing I didn't mention is Vimeo has its own app, which is totally free too. And what's great about that is you can actually shoot video on the go with like you want to shoot something, you can actually shoot video and edit with inside Vimeo and then upload straight from your phone to your own Vimeo account. So like they have services. Also on the iPhone, they have 2 different editing software. They have Real Edit and they have iMovie. I'm pretty sure Android probably has its own software out there. So it's like, you know.
There's also now Avid for the iPhone.
Is there?
Yes.
Oh, okay, Avid, that's another Avid, is it? With another editing system that a lot of a lot of production houses use to actually kind of use to edit their product together. Any questions so far? I mean, anybody have anything about
Yeah, maybe a question, Kyle, for
Yeah.
you, and then for Mark too. I don't know if you guys are going to catch this later on today, but just since a lot of podcasts are about commentaries on pop culture, whether it's an expert or a man on the street, are you going to talk about, how many seconds of a copyrighted song or video that you can use in your podcast without getting hit? That's one. What kind of release forms do you need for people that you're interviewing? Like if you did a man on the street kind of a podcast. And then does anybody here use a service to market or merchandise their podcast, or does everybody just rely on social media and your own sort of social network to get it out? Maybe those are questions throughout the day, I don't know.
Well, we're also going to have a Q&A panel later today. We're going to have a few over, and that doesn't.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I mean, a lot of these podcasts start off as your own. You start off doing it yourself. But there are services out there. I don't know off the top of my head right now, but there are services out there that will help you market. You can hire people to help. Like I said, a podcast is a product. Whether it's audio or video, it's a product that, if you're serious about it and you start to find out there's a market for what you want to do, then there are ways you can hire people. There are things out there you can help to push that farther. So, like I said, the next talk's on I can't even talk today. Monetization, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have a Q&A panel. We're gonna have a few of us up here, and we can kind of answer questions about stuff we've seen. Like that's one thing I keep getting asked about my students. I always tell them when they're doing video products, and I tell them you want to put them online because nobody really does demo reels anymore on DVD. They have everything online. People are finding stuff. That's what I'm saying. Vimeo is a really good place. If you make a demo reel, that's where they're gonna go check out your site and check out your what you've done. But I always get the question is like what about copyrighted music? That's one thing I know when we do MC Square, we can't go through iTunes because Kern gets all this music, and we don't play the whole song, but we still play a good chunk of the song where we can't really get,
How much can you play?
It's a gray area.
It's the rules set by the producer
Yeah.
of the song, so they can say, there are 3 options. They can say take it down immediately, and they don't need any length of time, they just need to be able to prove that it was their song. And that's done algorithmically. And Aaron, you want to hand me that?
So,
Three Stooges.
so there's an algorithm that they use that detects if you're using a producer song, and they have 3 choices from there. They can decide, I want to either take it down, which they can do with absolutely no notice, they can just mute the audio, or they can actually have the video pulled at this point. If it's copyrighted video, they can certainly have the video pulled. They can also do, this is what CBS does, it says at the bottom right corner next to the description, this is using CBS content, and then it will put an ad that is revenue share between YouTube and CBS. So that's how how the music rules and also copyright content rules work with YouTube. It's set by the producers.
No, yes, sir, I'm talking about YouTube.
Okay, so in general, fair use is a totally gray area in terms of copyright. Like if I did a video and I said, something about Kung Fu and it was new style, and I'm actually reporting on say a martial arts competition that's happening in Octagon Dallas tomorrow. I could play maybe 30 seconds of Kung Fu fighting as long as I credit them. If you watch any Sunday morning news show, the fluff ones, not the serious hard-hitting journalism ones, you can get away with about that much. If you watch the one that comes on right before Meet the Press, you can get away with just that much of referencing some goofy song if it's not on YouTube. And what you put in your description, this meets the fair use by whatever clause that is. It's either fair use by reference, fair use by parody, or there are 3 other things that constitute fair use. Yeah, fair use by education is also one. So, I could actually reference, without Kyle's permission, Kyle's talk if I wanted to do a 30-minute documentary on how podcasting works. I could take this, I could say, okay, so you can use Blip TV, and many producers are using it, but I would have to make a little bit of a mashup. So I show Kyle, and it would have to be mostly my content, or even just mostly not any one person's content. I could show Kyle, and I could show the panelists, and I could show Podcamp Denver, and I can mix that together. And that would constitute fair use in most cases. Now, they could still take you to court, but they're probably not going to. And you might get a takedown email, which you can kind of dispute a little bit. If you're generally polite, I've had times where I've gotten emails from people and they've said, oh, take this down. I've gone, no, it meets fair use because of this, this, and this, and I'll link back to you. And generally I met with, okay, fine, you can do that.
And a lot of that comes into the whole Creative Commons. The whole thing started a few years ago. They created what they call Creative Commons. It's like a sourcing group where basically you can link all the free use of free video, free music, free photos, free sharing that artists will allow you to use for a certain agreement. And Creative Commons has it to where they have one where basically you can use my song and you can change it up, do whatever you want with it as long as you give me credit. And then the first one's if you want to make money off it, you're going to use it to make a film, make money off of it. Then they have one down. It's saying it's basically the same thing, but it's basically you can do whatever you want with it, but you can't make any money off of it. And then they have another one. They limit the stuff down. So it really just depends on what the artist really wants to allow. And
there's also some music that is pod safe.
Yeah.
So you can get music that the artists have said this you can use it on your podcast. I think podsafemusic.com is one of the locations.
Using all the ashes, just credit them. It's this was my song.
They just want the credit for the song during the podcast.
Because
so it can be either right before the song, right after the song, or in the credits.
Hey, Mark, one other thing.
As far as licensing music goes, I bought perpetual rights, lifetime rights to a song. I just met an artist in Austin, and I bought the rights for a bottle of whiskey. Actually, incidentally, it was whiskey barons, so it was very fitting. The other thing is I've talked to tons of artists. So we have good friends, Got80s on Twitter. If you hit him up, he'll get you information for any artist on the planet, and get you directly in touch with them, and they'll get you the rights. They're really, really easy about. If you talk to the artist directly, they're really easy about getting the rights to their music. Got80s on Twitter, GOT80S. His name is Brad Iney. He's one of the better known music guys here in Dallas.
The one thing I will say, and this is just tie a little bit back into YouTube, is it's a total gray area. I don't know. I've seen so many different things happen. I mean, they have bots out there that will once you upload within 30 seconds, they will rip the audio from the thing. I mean, I had a student 2 years ago who used he went and shot his sister's graduation, and they had the graduation song, dun 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 dun, dun, and they pulled it. And I'm like, and you think that would be I don't see what the problem with having that on a video is, but they ripped it. And there are people who have you can only do 30 or 40 seconds, and people say if you're doing I know. But there's so many different arguments. Some people what about a cover band thing? Sometimes I wasn't taken down, but I got hit by a notification on YouTube just because I had music playing from the TV in the background of the video I shot. So it's
with a cover band, if it's if you're replaying a cover band, there's performance rights. There's all kinds of
exactly, yeah. I mean that's just a whole other area that you kind of But I always tell my students in the fall project whatever you do, steer the hell away from copyrighted music because it's just you want your video to be seen by everybody and be up there, and you don't want it to have it to work.
But if your podcast is a commentary on new music coming out, and you're going to need
again, yeah.
Well, if that's the case, you're going to need a license. To
Yeah,
use it.
yeah.
It's very expensive.
Yeah, we have a
That's
friend-
why there's not a lot of competition in that area.
We have a friend who she does uses like one of the cable stations for a radio show, and she pays for the right to actually play the music on on her show. So she ends up having to spend a lot just to do like the copyrighted stuff out there. So yeah, like I said,
See, the radio stations kind of have a sweetheart deal where they just pay pennies to play a song, and they were able to continue that deal with the music industry. But podcasters don't have a lobby group that can get together and ask for that. So the rights. The values are just astronomical for what you're actually doing.
What about release forms from people that you're interviewing?
Well, we're not lawyers, first of all.
Ask me later, I can give you the model release forms that I've used, that a lawyer did, right?
There's a ton of sample release forms online for photography and video and stuff like that.
oh,
It depends on the situation. Usually if you're helping promote somebody's thing, they're not going to care about the release form issues.
Somebody a question, and I want to use that interview in my podcast. So I
yeah. Even news stations will actually they'll make you sign some away say you got the
Right.
rights. Yeah.
But that's up to you. Some podcasters do it, some don't. It's kind of a gray area. If you want to protect yourself, and if you're doing a hobby show or something, I wouldn't really worry too much about it. But
Yeah.
if you're doing it for commercial purposes, you definitely do need to get some sort of.
I've had friends in the past that, like, two guys got together, they did a tech show, they had a falling out after 4 episodes, and the guy said, we didn't have anything signed, you got to take those episodes down because I don't want my likeness out there. So it's like, even if you're working with somebody you're very close to, make sure you have an agreement saying, no matter what happens, if we have a falling out, I have the right to use these episodes in that product. It's just covering your button no matter what.
I had YouTube, just for my intro music to my podcast, they gave me a takedown notice. And I had it was PodSafe Music, I bought the disc, so I emailed them photos of the disc, the song, the back, everything. And they still didn't think that was good enough, so I had to contact the manufacturer of the music. And luckily I knew the president of the company, he wrote an email that I had to forward to them saying I had permission from their company since I bought this to use it. And finally they said, okay, that's what it took to get them to agree. So they can be pretty anal.
Oh, no,
if it's
yeah.
the wrong person.
And that's the thing, is like when you're on YouTube or any of these things, half the time when they pull this stuff, they're bots. They used to be somebody, but now it's just randomly bots. You're just like, okay, if you hear this song, rip it, and boom, it's down.
There are also some people that are going to YouTube sites and trying to claim that it's their content to get the money, but it's not really their content. They're just basically
trolling.
trolling and slamming.
Oh, and that's one last thing I want to say is about trolling. Is when you do a product, whether it's audio, video, whatever it is, you're gonna have people who are gonna badmouth you. Do not let them get to you. There are people online that just do it for the hell of it to actually just go, oh, this is stupid, and why are you doing this as a copy of they do make all these remarks. So don't ever let these things,
F the chat room.
Yeah, exactly. Don't ever let them draw you away from it. If you have a passion, it's something you want to do it, because you're going to find more people when you find the audience, you're going to find more people that like it than people who are hating on it. They just have a sucky life, so they want to find somebody else to rip on. So never let these trolls ever stop you from creating the show you want to make. Okay, that's all I've got. Anybody got any questions? Anyone else got any questions?
Well, I have a comment on the whole YouTube thing, because everybody's kind of saying, okay, cool, I get a microphone.
That's one too.
Okay. Everybody's kind of saying, oh, well, if you do this, if you only play it for 30 seconds, you're okay.
It's a great.
Okay. YouTube's general guideline is don't use anything that you don't own. So if you're, if you're like, oh, well, if I only use it for 15 seconds, they can't do anything, right? That's not what YouTube says. YouTube says, oh, we can do it if you're using copyrighted stuff, even if it's just playing in the background.
But see, but they're also so bad. Is like, I've seen videos that get pulled in 30 seconds, and then people will have the song up on a channel for 2 years.
No,
It's weird.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, to be safe.
Yeah, no, to make sure you don't get pulled.
That's what they say.
Microphone. Just to point out, I was doing some work with a fairly well-read video blog called Real SEO. Read through all of the YouTube terms of service as a result of that, and it actually says we are using this platform. You are waiving the right to fair use. We supersede that because it's easier for us. So unless you plan on taking the actual company to court, YouTube has already said our platform is going to supersede fair use, which it makes a lot of sense when you're them. Yeah, it's a lot easier for them to just say we believe using this is bad, even if it might be technically legal for broadcast.
they don't really want to go through arbitration on everything. So their terms of use basically says, you know, screw it, fair use doesn't matter.
There's so many videos going up.
Yeah, exactly. They have 24 hours a day uploaded every 2 minutes.
Yeah, right. I almost go every minute, period. You know?
Oh, it's every minute?
I almost think so, yeah, now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed this week's session. Make sure and check back for future video sessions from Podcamp Dallas, as well as other sessions that I attend. Now, before I go, I want to share something with you. I really am kind of excited about this. I've started an e-magazine for the iPad. It's really doing great. Now, I have no background in publishing at all, but I found it a snap. Now, if you've ever thought that you'd like to publish an e-magazine, but you really don't know how to do it or where to go, you may want to visit Madcast. That's the service I use to create my magazine. Like I said, it's easy. Actually, it's almost foolproof. You can see for yourself, though, at madcast.fastpitch.tv. That's my affiliate code, of course. But that's all for today. So until the next episode, this is your host, Gary Leland, saying goodbye, and thanks for watching.